and welcome back to Good Time Content show Battleflix, the only show on the channel that provides you with film reviews, film information, and trivia with me, Ali Duranzo. To start off, we're going to be looking at this week's domestic box office numbers to see what films are doing well and what predictions can be expected in the future. Box office numbers for the week of September 22nd to the 27th are as followed. Number 1, we have Don't Worry Darling, starring Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Chris Pine, and directed by Olivia Wilde. At number 2, we have The Woman King with Viola Davis, Lashana Lynch, and Joey Boyega, which is directed by Gina Prince Bythewood. And at number 3, we have a re-release of the 2009 James Cameron film Avatar, with anticipation of Avatar: The Way of Water coming out later this year. Upcoming films to look out for in their release are Bros by Billy Eichner and Luke McFarlane, Smile with Susie Bacon and Kyle Gallner, and Amsterdam with Margot Robbie, John Davis Washington, and Christian Bale to bring us into October. Everything I just talked about out of the way, we're going to talk about today's discussion, which is the publicity surrounding films and TVs and whether it's purposeful stunt or if it's just accidental and, just going with the flow. We're going to go back to 1938 with a gentleman named Orson Welles. Orson Welles was a very popular director in his time. However, he didn't start out directing film. He was more of a radio show host. And with his radio show, he had one called The War of the Worlds. While this one wasn't very popular right when it started, it soon picked up popularity because of the stunt they pulled that really shaped the way people listened to radio all the time. He initially started a show called The Shadow, which grew pretty quickly. It was a mystery podcast type thing, at least not a podcast because that's more of a recent thing, but it was something that he was very interested in. Welles had begun hosting a normal news story, switching over to weather and then sports, and then switching over to a hotel room where there was an orchestra playing. Now remind you, there's no film involved with this. There's nothing but you listening to these narrative stories to get people to use their imagination. If you were sitting there that day listening to this radio show, you would be hearing these footsteps, the doors opening and closing in a normal hotel room. But then you would hear someone walk into the room, and then all of a sudden, an orchestra starts playing. Which is, sure, it's fine. It's a radio show. Like, you're gonna listen to music. But when the orchestra played and allowed people to relax a little bit, all of a sudden there is a breaking news to announce that aliens had destroyed Mars. And a comet they traveled in destroyed a farmer's field in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. This caused mass hysteria. So many people calling 911s, all the doomsday preppers being like, ha, I told you so. Because at the time, there were no laws against doing this kind of thing. It was just kind of do what you want, you just can't swear on radio, you just can't say anything too vulgar. After the mass hysteria was caused, the network could only give them a slap on the wrist and be like, hey, maybe give them a better heads up next time. Which I can completely understand not wanting to do that, only because it would ruin the illusion that people wanted to listen to. You see that nowadays with augmented reality games people do on like TikTok, YouTube, just different narrative storytelling arches that they don't want to break the spell. A few years later, Orson Welles came to be known as one of the best directors there ever was, with his film Citizen Kane, which sat at number 1 on Rotten Tomatoes for 80 years. If Orson Welles was a good person or not, that's for someone else to decide. Once Orson Welles' story of like the radio had gotten out, this became like a sole publicity thing a lot of people took attention to and decided to do for themselves because, if it worked for him on a radio, why couldn't it work for film or television? So, with the 1996 film Independence Day, 20th Century Fox and Centropolis Entertainment created a 32-minute broadcast that would essentially mimic what Orson Welles did in the War of the Worlds radio show, but instead of having people listen to it, they had them watch it.
This is the World News Network with Barry Nolan.
Good evening. On this most historic day, and in case you've just tuned in, brace yourself. You are looking at live coverage as several alien spacecraft, I repeat, alien spacecraft, are hovering above major world cities, including Washington, D.C., New York, Los Angeles, Moscow, Paris, and London.
A 32-minute broadcast that essentially showed people like, hey, the world is being attacked by aliens. I don't know what to tell you. Like, haha. So many people, just like Orson Welles' people did with the War of the Worlds radio show, went into chaos and like was so terrified that there were numerous 911 calls being like, hey, something is happening. Like, I don't know what to do. What should we do? How do we feel safe? With their broadcast being interrupted by the sliced up bits and pieces of the film, it was just chaos and fear over everyone because no one had ever seen anything like this. Sure, they might have heard of what Orson Welles did from their grandparents, but no one had ever physically seen this kind of tactic done before until they did it for Independence Day. And now it's been kind of a staple for a lot of films that take place. I will say it is kind of a very interesting tactic because we as people are gullible to think like, oh, this is real, like aliens are fully attacking us. I mean, for I think Independence Day 2, they had trucks in the UK with aliens on the back of them just driving around, so that way they'd gain more hype and more like, yeah, like maybe we should go see this, or maybe something is happening, but they wouldn't explain what. It's just a very interesting approach. But with Independence Day came even more dramatic publicity stunts to get people really interested and curious. A really great example of this is a 1999 independent film called The Blair Witch Project. The directors and creators of the Blair Witch Project went insane with the publicity and the build-up to the release. When the Blair Witch Project was initially created, the directors were asked, like, oh, is this real? And they would respond, yeah, like, it's totally real. Like, why would we make something like this up? We found this footage, and those kids are just gone now. Like, we don't know what happened to them. They might still be out there, but who knows? The directors were so committed to this publicity that they went as far as to having the students that were in the film pulled out of school for a little bit so they could really drive the idea that they were gone, that they weren't alive anymore, they were missing. The biggest difference between this one and Independence Day is that they had a website called BlairWitch.com that I think is still active right now, where it was all about publicity. It was all about, here's what the Blair Witch is, and like, here's what the project is, and just playing into this lore that no one really knew about, except for the people who worked on the film. The best part about the website was it wasn't enticing people to go watch the film, it was just enticing them to follow the lore, because the whole website was around like this lore of a Blair Witch, which I don't even know what it is. I've seen the movie maybe 2 or 3 times because it's just not my thing. I don't like scary movies, but it was more about making people fall in love with this story and the mythology around it, not to get people to actually watch it. They went as far as on the release during the Sundance Film Festival, they put up missing posters everywhere of all 3 people. Like, the girl was missing, the 2 guys were missing, and people ate it up. They thought this was real, and I don't blame them. Like, I know for a fact I would have fallen for it. Like I said before, people are really gullible, and that's the beauty of publicity stunts. They manipulated all of the students' IMDb pages saying they were deceased or missing, and in response to their opening weekend, they didn't glamorize how many views they got, but rather how many clicks they got on their website, which is typically the opposite of what happens. Like, they had a page in Vanity Fair's magazine dedicated to the BlairWitchProject.com, which, I mean, to each their own, I guess. And at the time, they would have the amount of clicks that were on that page counting and counting. They introduced the found footage style documentaries, and not even documentaries, like the mockumentaries, and even sparked the Paranormal Activity franchise to be as successful as it is. In fact, Paranormal Activities is the #1 found footage film as the time I'm recording this, with Blair Witch being #2. It goes to show you how much publicity does for its films, whether it's splicing them and putting it in a thing, or doing found footage and putting up missing posters of people who are still alive, just hidden out of the public eye. Next time you watch a movie, like, think about where you heard this or how you heard from it, because sometimes it'll be in places you never thought you'd hear from. While the last two have been purposeful publicity stunts by the companies themselves, this next one, someone took into their own hands to do, which isn't smart. A manager in a Jefferson City theater at the end of Iron Man 3 that came out in 2013 had hired a guy to dress up as a SHIELD agent and walk into the theater wearing all black, bodysuit and everything, with fake guns, to add a little fun post-screen performance. I guess this manager just wanted to take care of the post-credit scenes himself before it became a mainstream thing Marvel did, but the brain-dead manager thought this stunt would go very well so the audience would have a fun post-credit experience before it became cool. The theater responded, as quoted by The Hollywood Reporter, saying, "We apologize and are sympathetic for those who felt they were in harm's way with our character promotion for Iron Man 3. This was not a publicity stunt. We have worked with our Cosmicon group on many movies to dress up and help entertain our customers. We had many complaints about the members dressed as SHIELD operatives carrying fake guns. We didn't clearly tell customers, and some people didn't realize it was for entertainment purposes only. We apologize to the police that were called to come to our theater. We have a wonderful working relationship with Jefferson City Police Department. Going forward, we will take the necessary steps to make sure it doesn't happen again. Security and safety for our customers is #1 priority." If it's your #1 priority, why did you think this would go well, especially after a year of the theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado? Like, I don't see how this makes any sense to anyone whatsoever. Like, they clearly don't have a brain cell to put 2 and 2 together that fake guns in movie theaters, like, just shouldn't combined anymore. They didn't seem to have a brain cell and put 2 and 2 together that the way it looks is very suspect. Thank God it was for entertainment, but just imagine if it was the same situation in Aurora, Colorado, and, like, these managers clearly didn't have a sense of common knowledge. While those are purposeful stunts done by whatever person wanted to do it, I do want to acknowledge the unintentional stunts that promote actors in their day-to-day career. In very recent events is actually more about the actresses and actors, I guess, involved, as well as how music interferes with a lot of high school drama. If you don't know where I'm going with this, bear with me. If you don't live under a rock, you probably know who Olivia Rodrigo is. She became very popular through High School Musical, the musical, the series, but she did have a cameo in New Girl for an episode with Nick and his Pepperwood book, and when he visits Jess at school. But anyway, we're not going to necessarily be talking about the show High School Musical, the musical, the series, but there is a co-star that is involved throughout this whole drama that she's a part of. Joshua Bassett plays Rodrigo's love interest on the show, which evidently leads to rumors of them being together in real life. While neither side has confirmed they dated, there's a lot of speculation from media, publicity, that they were together because they have been seen spotted together. After Rodrigo released her song Driver's License, a lot of people think it was about a bad breakup she had with someone. Who could that someone be? What's interesting is that when the song was released in January of 2021, Rodrigo had initially teased it in July of 2020 with a different lyric. It went from, "You're probably with that brunette girl,"
and you're probably with that brunette girl, the one I always thought about,
to "You're probably with that blonde girl.
and you're probably with that blonde girl who always made me doubt,
which alludes to Joshua Bassett's newer love interest, Sabrina Carpenter. So, who exactly is Sabrina Carpenter? She is also an actress from Girl Meets World. She didn't play the main girl, but the other one. But there's a lot of speculation that her and Bassett hung out and talked a lot because they were just good friends. With her being the supposed love interest, they were spotted together at a Black Lives Matter protest, even though a bunch of celebrities are spotted there. But once the song Driver's License did come out and the lyric was about that blonde girl, a lot of fans took to social media and tried to figure it out, which eventually led a lot of like a love triangle almost. Joshua Bassett released a song, Lies, a week after Rodrigo released Driver's License, to which Sabrina Carpenter released a song called Skin with the line, "Don't drive yourself insane."
don't drive yourself insane, it won't always be this way,
alluding to this idea that it could be about Olivia Rodrigo. Again, all speculation. I'm just reading what I've seen online. When Rodrigo released her Sour album later in the year, even more people began speculating about the fact that Bassett was her possible love interest with all the songs she sang, like Deja Vu. She's just another actress. Like, some of the lyrics she says, you can definitely feel like more guttural and like feel more personal about the other girl, but she doesn't say names, and nothing has ever been confirmed or denied, like I had said, even by Carpenter or Bassett, but fans alike have ultimately agreed that her whole Sour album was about him, to which I personally think yes, but also I don't know, she had a lot of help writing those songs. I will say what's really interesting about the album is like she goes through the 5 stages of grief pretty much with all how the songs are laid out. First it's how does it go? It's like, I don't know, rejection, denial, sadness, anger, stuff like that. But if you listen to it, it kind of makes sense. She's 17. I don't know what to expect. It is high school drama, and like, good for her. She blew up. I like her music. I hope Sabrina and Joshua are doing well, because Lord knows people are mad at them for some reason. So, yeah. I want to talk about the 2022 Oscars when Chris Rock got smacked by Will Smith. While Rock was performing on the stage as a host for a chunk of the time, like getting ready to present an award, he made a crude joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett, and her battle with alopecia.
Lord, Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay. Okay.
Clearly, Will Smith didn't take it lightly and waltzed onto the Oscars stage while Chris was getting ready to present and slapped a grin onto his face. When Smith went back to his seat, Rock continued giving his presentation and was left at that. Later that evening, Smith did win Best Actor for his role in Richard King, only to completely disregard his events prior to the winnings. So when he gave his speech, he didn't really say anything about it. He didn't acknowledge what he did, but whatever. The outroar of support for Chris was incredible, to the point where the Academy, after Smith stepped away, banned him for a whole decade because of what transpired. What I find really interesting about this is people were initially blaming Jada for Will Smith's action, which, don't get me wrong, I get Jada isn't necessarily the best person out there. However, no one is 100% perfect all the time, and Will Smith made the decision to go up onto that stage. A day after the Oscars, Will Smith posted on his social media an apology. Violence in all its forms is poisonous and deconstructive. My behavior at last night's Academy Awards was unacceptable and inexcusable. Jokes at my expense are a part of the job, but a joke about Jada's medical condition was too much for me to bear, and I reacted emotionally. I would like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line and I was wrong. I am embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. There is no place for violence in the world of love and kindness. I would also like to apologize to the Academy, the producers of the show, all the attendees, and everyone watching around the world. I would like to apologize to the Williams family and my King Richard family. I deeply regret that my behavior has stained what has been an otherwise gorgeous journey for all of us. I am a work in progress. Sincerely, Will. Smith has reached out to Chris Rock in order to fully apologize, but that he isn't interested right now. Chris said, "I'll reach out when I'm ready." There is a part of me that thinks this was a raw, genuine reaction from that Will Smith did have, but part of me does think this was a stunt, because award ceremonies have been dying year after year. Like, I don't know anyone who still hosts award show nights or like award show viewing parties anymore, especially for the Oscars. But another part of me thinks maybe this was just emotionally reactive and that this is how Will Smith feels. But if you look at the clip, Chris Rock is smiling. I don't know if it's out of shock or whatnot, but we'll see. In July, 4 months after the slap had occurred, Will Smith posted a 6-minute video on his Instagram, interview style, answering questions people had about the slap in the event, even though there was no real buzz about it anymore. Like, no one really seemed to be talking about the slap that happened. Was this just a meticulous ploy to stay in the spotlight, or was it just eating at him every day, wanting him to comment? I guess we'll never know, and I guess Chris Rock will talk when he's ready. And finally, the whole reason this episode was an idea I had is to talk about the Don't Worry Darling drama with Florence Pugh and Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde and affairs, Shia LaBeouf, and just all the drama you can think of. I want to start off by saying, like, I haven't seen the movie. I tried to go into this with, like, an open mind, but I was reading off a Vulture article of, like, the timeline of events, so I just kind of used that to piece together, like, my own form of opinion. So whether you agree with me or not, totally up to you. Again, to each their own. So essentially, the whole cast hates each other. Besides Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde, we'll get into who likes and who doesn't like each other. So we're going to backtrack all the way to April of 2020, where Olivia Wilde announced Florence Pugh as the main housewife, Alice, and Shia LaBeouf as the husband, Jack, and Chris Pine as the main villain, for lack of a better term. Pugh was seen posting to her Instagram, very excited, as well as reminding people, like, hey, mask up and be safe because it was a pandemic. In September of 2020, Harry Styles replaces Shia LaBeouf to be the husband due to scheduling conflicts. Even though later on we learn Florence just was very uncomfortable with the idea of Shia on set. In December of 2020, inside sources say Shia LaBeouf was ultimately fired by Wilde due to the abusive and behavioral tendencies he had with the other cast and crew. Now, mind you, that's only, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That's only 8 months into the production of the film. So, like, yeah, they probably had to reshoot a bunch of things, but also, not even, no. He was replaced in September. April, May, June, July, August, September. That was only 5 months. If you have behavioral issues in the first 5 months of a job, you're kind of the problem. Like, I don't know how to tell you that, but you are the problem. In January of 2021, Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde are confirmed to be dating after Olivia Wilde broke off her 9-year relationship with the actor from Ted Lasso. Both parties, I guess, were very candid in their relationship on the set of Don't Worry Darling, which can cause a lot of tension down the line, but there's a lot of speculation that if Wilde and Harry had an affair together while she was still with the Ted Lasso actor. I would like to take a moment to say that all of this drama was before the press tour, so while there is more talk about Shia LaBeouf, I'm glad he went to an inpatient facility to get the help he needed, but I just want to put my heart out there for any woman, man, or person he may have mistreated or abused, like FKA Twigs and Caroline Foe. Like, just want to say I'm so sorry you had to go through that, and we are by your side, supporting you every step of the way with this recovery process. During the press tour of Olivia Wilde's film, much more drama came out to the public, expressing the difficulty it was to create because of the chemistry among the cast. In February of 2021, there are reports of Styles and Wilde relationship that was going very strong during filming. In fact, so well that Florence expressed the difficulty that she had working on the set with them. The couple would constantly disappear during shot setups and during scene setups, which frustrated many people, especially, like, I've only worked on maybe 2 or 3 films in my life, but it is frustrating when people aren't where they're supposed to be, especially when setting up the shots, because you need to make sure, like, it's set up for the correct body type, for the correct skin color, for the correct everything. And if the director, mind you, is off gallivanting with someone, let alone one of the main actors, like, I don't know, just a little frustrating. That same month, Wilde had posted that the film had finished wrapping and that she was very thankful for Florence and Harry. She posted on her social media, 2 separate posts of course, expressing her gratitude for both parties involved, except one clearly had a little more detail than the other. If you'd like to take a stab at which one, then by all means, but I think we all know. In December of 2021, Olivia Wilde posts a teaser that is essentially a thirst trap for Harry Styles, but also wants to comment on the lack of good sex films that show women's thirst for love and attention. And she was very adamant about this being a woman-led film, and that it was about a woman and her satisfaction, not the male satisfaction, especially through a female gaze. While I don't necessarily agree with that, I do respect her choice in trying to strive for that female gaze. Especially on the scene where, like, Florence Pugh is being laid out on the table by Harry Styles. Like, you don't see that in movies often, and I'm happy that we did see it. It's also a very questionable way of going about it. In April of 2022, an official trailer was released, only for it to be overshadowed by the intimate scenes with Harry Styles and Florence Pugh. Having the media give spotlight for it was unfortunately not what Florence wanted, seeing as she was just felt so underappreciated at that point, but it is what it is. It's unfortunately how it happened. That same month, Wilde was served at CinemaCon for custody papers from her former partner, which he didn't necessarily want that done at that point. However, I guess that someone else found that the best time to do it, whereas he stands firm that I didn't do it. Like, no, I didn't want that to happen.
Right now? This is very mysterious. I'm gonna open it now because it feels like it's timely. Is it a script? Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you.
In July of 2022, a source spills details about the Wilde and Styles relationship that started as an affair, only to learn that Pugh was very disgusted by their behavior on set, but decided to keep her head cool about it because it wasn't her business. She didn't know what was going on and just let it be, because unfortunately with celebrities, you never know their business. Like, they could be having a completely separate life at home. Like, she might have not known Wilde and her partner at the time were not together anymore. Like, who knows? In August of 2022, this is where it gets a little more intense. A month before the release of the film, Florence Pugh describes her personal relationship with the film as being disgusted that the only thing the media is talking about is her scene where she's very vulnerable in her sexuality. She told the Harper Bazaar, "When it's reduced to your sex scenes or to watch the most famous man in the world go down on someone, it's not why we do it. It's not why I'm in this industry. Obviously, the nature of hiring the most famous pop star in the world, you're gonna have conversations like that. That's just not what I'm gonna be discussing, because this movie is bigger and better than that, and the people who made it are bigger and better than that." From what I got from this interview is that she's feeling so small in one of the most anticipated films of the year, which is very upsetting, especially when it's supposed to be a woman-led film. I heard people say that it's like a thirst trap for Harry Styles, which I don't know if it is or not, but I also heard people saying like Florence is the best thing of the film, which I do fully believe. It just sucks that when the director is canoodling with the co-star of the main character, it's hard to find that separation of work and love. I feel so bad for Florence. It's especially difficult for having a woman-led film be directed by a woman and just only be sexualized. Like, what are we working for? What was Wilde's point in that? Because she's only just sexualizing Florence even further. There is more that happened during this month as well. Wilde did a lengthy interview about her interpretation of how the media has portrayed her movie in an overtly sexualized film, just emphasizing Harry Styles' hotness. Florence declined an interview at the time, but Harry responded via email saying and expressing how incredible Olivia is since she was an actress before a director. That way she'll be able to like almost perform better as the director in order to really get her ideas across. When asked about the tension between her and Florence, she just chalks it up as the media trying to pit two strong women against each other, which I can agree with. That is a pretty popular thing the media does, but I can also see how what Olivia Wilde says is very invalidating to Florence, and that Florence is what she felt on the set isn't real, if that makes any sense. Even later in the month, again, before the release, Shia releases a video of Olivia Wilde begging him to come back, basically saying, Flo can get over it. Like, I want you back. I want you to work on this production. Like, if Flo really wants this part, like, she'll step up to the plate and take it like a champ.
Shia. I feel like I'm not ready to give up on this yet, and I too am heartbroken, and I want to figure this out. And, you know, I think this might be a bit of a wake-up call for Miss Flo, and I want to know if you're open to giving this a shot with me, with us. If she really commits, if she really puts her mind and heart into it at this point, and if you guys can make peace, and I respect your point of view, I respect hers, but if you guys can do it, what do you think? Is there hope? Is there hope? You let me know. Okay, bye.
Florence Pugh deserves so much more. She does. Finally, September 2022. The month of the release. The film was shown at a Venice Film Festival, which had 4 minutes of applause and a standing ovation to Olivia Wilde's directing, which is well deserved, I will say. Like, it is very hard to be a female filmmaker, and it's hard to break into that kind of role, especially in the industry, but I'm very proud of her for doing that. However, again, when asked about her potential feud with Florence, she just kind of declines and just keeps going through explaining how great of an actress Florence Pugh was and how amazing she is to work with, but I guess we can't say the same. The best part of all of this, the internet decides that Harry Styles spits on Chris Pine's lap. I mean, have you seen the video? If you haven't seen the video, like, here's a small clip. How dumb can people be? Like, yes, it looks like it, but also, why would he do that? I don't see what the point of Harry doing that is, unless him and Chris are like buddies, but I don't know. Wilde does have a point about people making stories out of nothing when looking for drama, but I'm going to take what she says with a grain of salt, because with her not commenting on Florence and also her not commenting on her and Harry Styles' potential affair, you never know what's true with her. The most recent update I've gotten is September 25th of 2022, which is basically like Olivia denying that she was asking Shia to come back and that her main priority was to keep Florence feeling safe, and that's why she didn't want Shia involved in it at all, even though I don't know why Shia would share one of those things. Granted, he is probably very manipulative, so I can understand that, but also Olivia Wilde isn't the best person either, so again, we'll never know until someone, like a third party, comes forward and says something. With all that said and done, thank you guys so much for tuning into the Battleflix's commentary central part of the video. You guys are welcome to follow me on Instagram at live.withally. You can follow me on my Letterboxd, which is at Ali Duranzo, or my Twitch channel, Noxtress. Now I'm going to send you off to Eli, who is going to be hosting a trivia portion of the episode, and I hope to see you all next week, so bye!